got this hat delivered today. I was very excited. I wanted to wear it in the episode today, but I ordered a fitted hat, and this is an adjustable one. Unacceptable. So, I'm sending it back. It will make its debut later. You know, I've heard jokingly a lot over the years people saying they have an addictive personality, and it's usually like a reference to them watching too much Netflix or something. Like it's a big joke. I have an addictive personality, man. I watch too many shows, too many of my stories. I guess that kind of made me wonder if perhaps there is no such thing as an addictive personality and you just get addicted to stuff because that's just the way people are. But then you do hear on commercials for prescriptions, a lot of times you'll see in there like, you shouldn't take this if you have a history of like alcohol abuse or you have addictive tendencies. So that would seem to indicate that some people do have addictive personalities and maybe some don't. What is it like to be someone who doesn't have an addictive personality? I would like to know. Bring the man to me. Now the thing is, there's really no such thing as an addictive personality in terms of like being diagnosed with, oh, you have an addictive personality. It's not like a disorder, but there are recognized traits that people can have that make them more likely to have addictions. It kind of comes down to common sense things like people who already have existing mental health issues like depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, people who are like overly adventurous, throwing caution to the wind, people who are apathetic to life, or if there's like a history of addiction in your family. So these are all traits that can make you more likely to have an addictive personality. Maybe I'm just in my own little bubble of depression and anxiety, but it's like, who doesn't deal with at least one of these things? Maybe there are healthy people out there. I don't know. Show the man to me. I'm just trying to get people to click away. There's a TED Talk that I saw about addiction. I'm sure you might have come across it too. That's very popular. This video says everything we know about addiction is wrong. And it's not a physical thing, you know? When your grandma gets her knee replaced, is she addicted to morphine when she gets out of the hospital? No, that's because it's all mental. I'm kind of like really flattening out the argument, but this guy basically says that addiction isn't just this chemical reaction that we have all assumed it is. I don't know if I'm just misinterpreting this guy's argument, but I think there's clearly some kind of biological, chemical thing going on with addiction. He says that it's because we lack connection in the world. We lack connection to other people. And because of this lack of connection, we can be more open to filling that with a connection to some kind of substance. But I've got to say, I think that there is definitely a physical element to it. So I think the answer is somewhere in between, because having a lack of connection to other people will make you more likely to turn to substances that inherently will get you addicted to them. And then it's much more difficult to leave the addictive substances when you don't have something good to replace it, you know? Really, I think any kind of addiction comes down to, or is sparked out of, the inability to be alone with ourselves. It's ultimately a distraction and or a mood booster. And the thing is, addiction doesn't have to be to a drug. You can really be addicted to a lot of different things, and sometimes it's funny when people talk about it. It's like, you're addicted to that? What are you talking about? But you know, you can get addicted to shopping or video games or social media. Yeah, it might not be as bad as if you are a severe drug addict, but it still is like the same compulsion to do something because you don't want to just be alone with yourself. And yet maybe using the term addiction is a little strong, but I feel like if there's something that you just feel compelled to do that you're not even thinking about because of it's like you feel a little bit of pain, inner pain, and then you're like, oh crap, I gotta do something. and then you do that thing, whether it's down a drink or check your email. Like, I compulsively check my email like all day long, because I think maybe I'll get an email that is someone reaching out to save me from my dreadful life. Like, is that what I'm expecting? Someone to offer me a job out of nowhere and, offer me $1 million salary. I guess it comes down to, I can't just be okay right here where I am. I have to be looking out for this other thing. I mean, I have a lot of like little addictions. I basically have to be drinking something all day long. I don't feel good unless I am downing a drink. I'm drinking coffee all day. I'm drinking seltzer water, Coke Zero. I've got a iced tea here right now. And it used to be all evening downing wine or something like that. And in the past, I've been addicted to other things, like a period where I just played video games a lot or just watched YouTube like hours on end. I still kind of do that, but the difference between, I think, overindulging in something and then being addicted to it is that element of, I'm trying to fill this gaping void. I'm trying to make myself feel not alone. Well, there's two things here at play. Like, I think it's both. We can't be alone with ourselves. And that part of that can also be, I'm lacking a connection with other people. Because sometimes it's not good to be just by yourself. The other thing I do compulsively? Show commercials in the middle of a video. Let's do one right now. Side effects include having too much fun. Thank you for sitting through that. This might sound uncomfortable, but even just thinking is an addiction. We are all addicted to thinking. Even when you're by yourself and you're not looking at your phone or whatever, you're probably thinking. And maybe not even aware that you're kind of on this thought loop going around. I'm not saying thinking is bad. Ow. I'm not saying thinking is bad, but sometimes you get on these negative thought loops that are just kind of like, they make you feel good in a weird way. Like, to just sit there and grind on, oh man, this person wronged me yesterday. Oh, they shouldn't have done that. And it's making you feel bad, but at the same time, it's giving you this like perverse pleasure somehow. It's like making you feel, maybe that's a way of making you feel like you have a false connection with somebody. It's a negative connection. It's like an unnecessarily dramatic one, but by golly, at least you have one. Yeah, I mean, thinking is ultimately a way of distracting ourselves from being with ourselves. And I've talked about me using alcohol improperly before. I mean, I wasn't addicted to it physically, like I didn't have the DTs when I stopped, but I was like psychologically kind of dependent on it. And I think a lot of young people, especially young men, like in their 20s, have this issue of having this anxious energy that isn't being used up. That energy can go into creative stuff. For me, that's where it should go. But it would just get to me too much. It would be this anxious feeling, and I would just have to squelch it. I'd have to tamp it down with a few drinks. And of course, the problem with alcohol is your body starts to adjust. The alcohol is bringing you down, and your body's trying to bring you back up. And so then when the alcohol leaves your system, all of a sudden your body has shot you way up and you feel super anxious. Like, about a month ago, right before I decided to quit alcohol for a while at least, I was having some of the worst anxiety I've had in a long time. And I think it was really just because of the alcohol. It was awful. And it was this cycle, this where it's like I need to put out the anxiety, so I need to get at that with alcohol, and then that made it worse. And I've seen this in videos before where it's talking about like quitting drinking, where you can't just quit drinking because then there's a void in your life where that was. And what's going to happen in your day when you get to the point where this addiction was, and you can put anything there, whatever your addiction is, whatever your strange addiction is. If you decide not to do it anymore, well, that's simple enough. You just don't do it. You don't want to smoke anymore, just don't open a pack of cigarettes and don't put one to your lip and don't light it. There's no action involved. It's a lack of action. But what happens when you get to the time in your day when you normally have a smoke and you have nothing planned to do? And it's just, oh, well, I'll sit here and think about how much I'd really like to smoke, but I can't anymore. And maybe ultimately that's why we went to this addiction in the first place, because there were voids in our lives that we were trying to fill. There were these times where all we had to do was sit there and think about us existing, and we didn't like that, so we needed to fill it with something. We needed to fill it with TV shows. We needed to fill it with shopping. We needed to fill it with name your addiction. And if there's something that you're addicted to, even if it's just something like Facebook or something, and you're trying to get off it, right, you're going to feel these urges every once in a while where it's like, man, it would be really nice to do that thing that I was used to doing. You've got to ask yourself in that moment when those peaks happen, what is going on right now that I can't just sit with? What is making me kind of stressed out, or what is causing me to want to distract myself? I guess in a way, meditation, prayer, or just like practicing being in the present moment is the opposite of what causes addiction, I guess, or making connections with other people, meaningful connections. Maybe that's the other part of it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you again tomorrow. I'm addicted. I'm addicted.